Hey everyone, and welcome back to another Azure Cloud video in this series. So this one is going to be a quick and simple one and a bit more exciting than the last ones, but again, those last videos are mainly just to set the foundations for your Azure platform and is just relevant regardless of what you're doing in Azure. You need to make sure you've got billing, budgeting, and all this basic understanding sorted right before you do anything else in Azure. You get those right, you're like already you're a lot more switched on in the cloud than a lot of other people who would just jump straight into it, right? So it's a good place to start. But in this one, what we're going to be doing is just playing around with virtual machines. It's quick and simple. I'm going to show you how to create a virtual machine, we're going to doing so we're going to have a look at resource groups as well, and especially tagging, and how that relates with the previous video with cost and billing. So as you can see here, this is what we're going to be doing, creating a resource group, which in turn will create a virtual network and a subnet. We'll be creating a Linux virtual machine, and we'll be connecting to it using SSH. Yeah, so if you have no idea how to use SSH and how to connect to a Linux VM, I'll make a video now and kind of have it pop up in the corner here, so you know how to do it. So you can watch that video now and then kind of come back to this if you want, or watch it after, whatever. It will just explain how to use SSH on your Windows 10 desktop. Anyway, let's get started. So what you want to do is come into your Azure environment. You don't have to follow along, you can just watch if you want. You go to your subscriptions, go to your main subscription, and then just go to resource groups. And I've got existing ones here, but I'm going to make a new one. So add, and so again, it gets created within a subscription. Again, within the subscription resource group, we'll call this Azure for everyone. Region is good because region affects pricing. So I think most of the resources that you create inside the US are a lot cheaper than what they are with creating in Aussie, but that's fine. So, and you get better latency the closer the region is to you. So I'm in New Zealand, so I'm going to choose Australia Southeast. Just yeah, quicker latency, a little bit more pricing, but I'm going to get rid of this virtual machine pretty quick anyway, so it doesn't really bother me too much. Tags. So last video I mentioned tags as well, I think. I'm trying to remember if I did or not. So with tags here, yeah, I did. So with the billing, you can track things with tags, right? And the billing is only as good as you make it. So by using tags, we can filter our billing on the specific tags we use. So for example, if we have, say, a cost code. Now a cost code is like a finance thing. So say I'm doing a project and I get given the cost code 12. That means that all my resources I make, I'll put the tag cost code 12 on there. But then if say if finance hit me up and go, Nick, how much has your project spent for the last 3 months? I can just do a filter the cost and billing on the cost code 12, and I get a breakdown of my spend on all my resources. So that's why tags make your billing so much cleaner and nicer and just easier to track. Another great one is owner. So Nick. But you always put an owner tag on your resources, so that means if someone needs to find out who made it, they just go, oh yeah, Nick was the owner of this, hit me up. Hey Nick, what are you doing with this virtual machine? Or whatever, right? So yeah. But this is just a resource group. That's all we're making at the moment. We're not making a virtual machine yet. But these tags should be applied everywhere regardless, right? These are like the two basic ones. Review and create. Validation was passed. I have no policies restricting me where I can create things, so this policy passed fine. I'll go into details of policies at a later date. Cool. So now you can see that my resource group has been made and it's right here at the top. We'll click on there. And you can see the tags up here, cost code 12 and owner Nick. That is my resource group. Now, all we're going to be doing now is creating a virtual machine. So just follow along. I'm not going to go into any of this detailed stuff within the virtual machine. That will come at a later date. I'm just simply showing you how to create a virtual machine and how the tags and stuff work. So let's click add. Here it gives you like a basic popular things like Ubuntu and stuff, or you can search up here, or you can look down the left for some things. But Ubuntu will work fine for me because I don't need to pay licensing fees. Right. When I say licensing fees, like with Windows, you have to pay like an extra charge on there because you're using a Windows license. Virtual machine, we'll just call this Azure for everyone VM. It will be in Australia Southeast, that's fine. Your virtual machine can be in a different area location to your resource group. There's no dependency there, so that's fine. But I'm going to keep it in Southeast for the latency purpose. Size, I'm going to look for the cheapest one, which is a $7.28 one, that's fine. But if you really want, you can go down to see what sizes, and that will give you a big breakdown of all the VMs. But the one I want is just that simple. If you're using the free tier, just look at what the free tier equivalent one is in that 12-month trial and just use that, because then it won't come out of your credit, which will be good. But anyway, just carrying on again. So subscription, resource group, Azure for everyone. Giving it a virtual machine name, using the basic Ubuntu server image, Ubuntu server, and now the SSH public key. That's how I'm going to connect to the virtual machine. So I need to go to terminal. I'm going to go to Ubuntu, and I'm just going to get my public key real quick. Right, so it looked like I didn't have a public key, so I just made one. So now what I'm going to do is just get that. So I'm going to just print it out. So I'm going to make a tutorial on how you can make your own key and everything in another video, just to separate my videos and make it a bit cleaner. So this is my public key. Grab that. And I'm going to put that in. So where it says generate new key, I can go use existing public key, and I'll paste that in there. So again, I know I didn't explain how I got the public key and stuff like that, but I'm going to make another video on that. But essentially all the public key is letting me do is connect to my virtual machine without needing a password, because the way how a private key works, that I've put the public key on my server and I have the private key, so the authentication is already made. Quick and easy without passwords. Again, I'll make another video that will go along with this one, just on how they work and how SSH works. Next, I'm going to leave the disks and everything by default. Here you can add extra disks if you really wanted to. Networking is going to create a new virtual network for me. It's going to add a new public IP address so I can connect to it over the internet. It's going to make a new subnet for me, that's fine. And it's allowing inbound ports. So it's opening up that port 22 for SSH. So yeah, if that wasn't open, I wouldn't be able to connect to my virtual machine. Next. I'm going to turn off diagnostics monitoring, just unnecessary stuff. Again, I can go over all of that at a later date. We're not going to need any advanced stuff. Tags, definitely will keep this going. So cost code, this will be part of 12, owner, Nick. So Azure also remembers existing tags, which is nice. And review and create. So again, while that's doing that, again, it was just going into create the resource group, and then inside the resource group I added and then selected Ubuntu, and now I just filled out the basics, right? Again, make sure the size that you use is part of that free tier that you're using, then it won't charge you your credit. But yeah, cool. That's it. Now if I hit create, just submitting it for deployment. So now it's going to run through a deployment and slowly start spinning things up. Everything is like a separate resource. So the virtual machine is a separate resource, the virtual network is a separate resource, the disk that is attached to the virtual machine is a separate resource, the public IP address is a separate resource. So that's why it's creating, as you can see here, it's creating them all individually. But the good thing is all the tags that I specified will be applied to all of them. So it just makes life a little easier. But now we can connect to the virtual machine using the public IP address, which is right here. So what we can do is, if I clear that, we can connect to it. So we need to copy that. So there's two things we need to know: is the user name that we're using to connect to this. Since I didn't specify one when I was creating this, the default username in Azure is Azure user, and then the IP address. So SSH Azure user at, and again, since I'm used my public SSH key, and I have the private one on this, it's just going to connect without a password. Enter. Bam. See, I'm in. And now I'm in the Azure for Everyone VM, just like that. So I can show you. So it's currently running. If I do shutdown now, probably need to put a sudo on that. Bit of a refresh. Wait for that to change the status from running to stopped. Takes a couple of seconds. There we go. Cool. So that's how easy it is to create a virtual machine. And that's pretty much it. So we need a resource group. I'll come back to here. Needed a resource group. We created, when we created the virtual machine, it actually created the virtual network and everything for us, just like that. We didn't need to do any of that. Now, later on, we can get into more specifics, so how the networking, everything works for the virtual machine. But for now, obviously showing you how the virtual machine is made, and essentially kind of how the tags in the resource group worked. That's all I really wanted to cover. I didn't want to get too detailed just yet. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.